bases dropped on a beautiful Thursday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia. No longer in parts unknown. Back on the SDH beat. Sorry about the battery draining powers of the Spreaker Live app yesterday. That was shocking. It was nuts. It went from like 50% to 5 in about 10 minutes and freaking out. Like, okay, we're about to just drop off the air because my phone's going to die. Back and forth to cover some Atlanta United preseason, and that makes it an Overreaction Thursday. Let's just get straight into the reactions, John, because we have the Overreaction Thursday response of all the Overreaction Mondays, Thursdays. We'll have an Overreaction Friday coming up here soon. We're going undefeated, according to Erica, Skybabe37.
Saw that.
When you win 6-1 against Xolos U20s plus a few veterans, yeah, I mean, I get the reaction. It's not true. We're not going undefeated. That's not going to happen. But I get the overreaction. There wasn't a whole lot to complain about watching both games yesterday. And thanks to everybody who was able to help us get the first game up. A couple things, just, what I can tell y'all behind the scenes and how this type of stuff goes. Preseason is different. I mean, first off, it's all about what the players, what the technical staff needs. That's number one. It's not about streaming it. It's not about broadcasting. It's not about anything else other than this is the time that the team comes together, and this is the time that the technical staff needs everything that they need, and their first priority. It was very cool once we heard the way things were going to go down, and it was going to be 160 minutes of action, but 80 against Cal State Fullerton with a team playing in that one, and an 80 against Xolos with a separate team for the most part playing in that one. We were hoping we'd be able to get the Cal State Fullerton game up for you guys, and everything worked out to where we were able to do it. And Mike and I had a chance to call 160 minutes of preseason action. It was fitness for us too, because we needed to get into midseason form pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly there for spring training action for Atlanta United.
Yeah, split squad action, and we called them both. I don't know if Skip and Pete did that back in the day. It's good times, though. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to be able to watch these guys on the field again and watch the changes that we have seen under Frank DeBoer. And, I mean, the biggest change straight off the bat is playing in a 3-4-3 shape. As I said yesterday, and I think this is going to be the case as the year goes on, the shape is really not going to be that important. I think it's more about the philosophy, more about the style of how the team plays as opposed to where players start at kickoff. Because you didn't see Ezequiel Barco play as a left winger throughout the game. He played soccer. He played. Andrew Carlton, same thing in the first game. He played. He would be on the left. He'd be on the right. He'd be in the middle. He'd drop in deep. He'd be up top. That's the game. That's where the game's going. It's not about being rigid in a shape anymore. And this was maybe the most fluid we've seen Atlanta United teams look in, maybe ever, to be honest. You saw some elements of this in a very different way early on in 2017 when the team was pressing very high. They were creating that fluidity through pressing. They were creating it when they didn't have the ball. What we saw yesterday from both teams was fluidity with the ball. And this is going to be a team that their idea of how they want to play, their game model, is to have the ball. It's to control the ball. It's to control the match by not allowing the opposition to have the ball. That's how they want to play. That's going to be the focus here. So, John, watching it, what did you think as you were watching both of these games?
I ended up with a laundry list of folks that I wanted to get. First and foremost, I wanted to get every actions on. But to your point, it was fluidity and where folks were. It wasn't where they started. It was where they were during any particular given set of play. during any particular possession. And obviously you had the moments of brilliance, you had the moments of spring training. But for me, it was in the first match, seeing AA, seeing Boschti, seeing Miles, Dion Pereira, Kendall Edwards, Carlton, seeing them getting used to things in the DeBoer system. And then obviously in the second match, seeing Barco do what he was able to do with the new hairstyle notwithstanding, and seeing Joseph with the cute little chip, seeing PT do his things. And I'll always go back, and spring training for me and getting everything ready for the regular season for me is about the little societies and seeing how those are going to be established. But for me, I ended up with a list of 7 guys, probably 8 from match 1. And then obviously the star power that we're looking at in match 2. But then you look at what a Breck Shea was doing integrating. You look at what Jeff Lorenowitz was doing and seeing them in places that we weren't necessarily seeing them a lot in 2018. So it was just how, I don't know if organic is the right word to use, but just how everything seemed to flow, and it didn't necessarily matter in a rigidity of a position sense for me in both of the matches yesterday.
Yeah, it was all about flow, and it was all about how both teams kind of worked through playing in a little bit different way than we've seen them before. We saw them gradually become more of a possession-based team last year. So it's not completely brand new way of playing, but it is a little different. Let's hear a couple of highlights. This is from the first match, Romario Williams' goal against Cal State Fullerton.
Advantage play, Andrew Carlton. Down the middle for Romario Williams. First goal of the game, Romario Williams.
Nice work by Andrew Carlton to create space in the middle of the field and drive forward. Amir Boschti, we've mentioned quite a bit today, is the one who picked out Carlton, but it's the first touch from Andrew to create that space. Then he takes off and accelerates. Perfect weight on the pass, splitting 2 defenders to Romario Williams.
Third goal of the preseason, by the way, for Romario.
And here's the clips from the match with Club Tijuana. 6-1 Atlanta United win.
Robinson is in the middle. That was reversed last year.
Barco, good persistence. Joseph sends it back to Barco. Ezequiel Barco to Joseph for the goal. Third goal of the preseason for Joseph Martinez.
Isn't picked off that time.
LGP sends it down to Julian Gressel. It's turned over to Joseph Martinez with the keeper way off his line. Martinez now will try to chip, and it goes in. Oh, here's a bad turnover. Atlanta United with a chance. Here's Tito to Joseph Martinez for the hat trick. Joseph Martinez leaves off for Tito. 3-0. Shea over there marking Diaz. Played into the 18. Tona. Oh, and a goal for Xolos. Torres makes it 3-1. A little bit of a mess here for the Five Stripes with Cancott way off his line. Dangerous ball that Miles Robinson will walk out of there. And Miles Robinson does well to get it up to Joseph Martinez, who turns, spins it over to Jeff Lorenowitz now. Barco, who had a great first half. Here's the cross, and it almost got through to Joseph. Breck Shea, backheeled by Pitty. Easy goal for the hat trick for Joseph. The number 8's been very good, too. Barco coming forward again. Ahead for Joseph. How did that get through? Barco with the goal. 5-1 to the Five Stripes. Today against Cal State Fullerton. Pitty. Flicked in for a goal.
Joseph Martinez with a powerful header inside the 6.
And Joseph has scored for the 4th time today.
Yeah, it was a little ridiculous. Joseph Martinez with 4 goals, Barco with 1, Villalba with 1, Romario with 1 against Cal State Fullerton. Lots of goals for us to call yesterday. Want to hear your thoughts on Overreaction Thursday, those of you listening, on who you liked, who looked good, who looked like they need some room to improve. what you thought about the shape and the way Atlanta United played, the idea, the philosophy behind it, and just how you feel after watching this team play yesterday. The results, you can't worry too much about final score lines and results in preseason. It's honestly not the goal of it. The goal is to play in a certain way that is going to prepare you for, in this case, February 21st, when you're on the field in Costa Rica against Herediano. And I thought the team accomplished that. I thought that they got a lot out of yesterday, even when the scoreline got out of hand. You look at the second match against Xolos, it was a team that all played, with the exception of Brad Kazan, who played half the game. Alec Can played the other half. Tito Villalba played half of the Xolos game. He played half of the Cal State Fullerton game, so he got 80 minutes of work in. P.T. Martinez came in and played 40 minutes of the Xolos game. He's the only one of your starting group who didn't play a full 80. So you were able to get a good run out, a good bit of work in, which is part of this. It's part of, strengthening the legs, increasing the endurance, all those types of things. But also in a competitive situation where you can go run laps all you want, and that's great. It's not necessarily soccer fitness. What was impressive here was, as the game went on, you could see tired legs start to creep in, but you saw the team work on, okay, we're tired. We can't do some of the things we were doing earlier. How do we see this game out? You keep possession. You keep possession in a different way. You're not trying to work the ball around to create opportunities as much. You're trying to keep possession because the ball can move faster than you can. And you can rest a little bit in possession. That's very important. I thought they did a really good job of that. I was very happy with the philosophy behind what we saw yesterday. And I think what surprised me the most was how comfortable both teams looked in playing that way. Of course, I think the starting group looked more comfortable in it. But even your guys like Amir Bashti and Anderson Asedu coming in and being able to grasp these concepts, which are very different than what college teams play with. A guy like Kendall Edwards being able to step up and grasp these concepts, playing as a center back with two decidedly non-center backs on either side of him. John Gallagher, Mikey Ambrose, George Bello, all generally do not play as center backs. And Kendall Edwards from the academy was able to step up and get the job done. I thought he played very well, and maybe one of the most impressive players on the day. His defensive work at the very end of that Cal State Fullerton match, where he was gassed, still making a run, still bodying an attacker off and winning the ball. These are the little things that will serve him very well. The overall understanding of the concepts that have changed a little bit, not dramatically, but a little bit, that was really impressive for a team that's only had a few weeks of training, John.
Yep, and to see, and to your point, seeing things out, I think that's big, where you're not sitting there and trying to figure out, okay, we've got a lead, and you have this vision of the team collectively hanging on the side of a cliff with their fingernails and doing the Wile E. Coyote bit and trying to figure out how to hang on to the cliff before you end up dropping and things go sideways. I think it was a good indicator yesterday. And a bit of a side question from me for you, since you were hip deep in Cal State Fullerton. If the keeper for Fullerton doesn't take yesterday and turn it into a huddle reel, then there's a serious problem, because there were times when he had to stand on his head to keep it the way that it was at 1-0.
Yeah, agreed. Few times shots were right at him, and they weren't too difficult, but he had a couple of kick saves I was really impressed with. Had a diving save as well. He showed well. I thought overall Cal State Fullerton showed pretty well. It was a good organized group for them. What was impressive for me, they gave the second group for Atlanta United a good contest, because they didn't get frustrated when they had really very little of the ball. And they kept, at times, really looking a little dangerous on the counter, and especially late. It was a good test, a good run out. And that was a group that, in my opinion, they didn't really play like a typical college team. They tried to play. That's a good sign. I want to see more of that with college teams and high school teams and academy teams as well. And I'd like to think that that's going to continue to grow. They just are not at the same level. And you saw a couple players who I think could step up to that level, but it was a good experience for them. It was a great opportunity to be able to get an extra 80 minutes for a second team and get to see some guys in some different spots. I mean, when we saw the lineup come in, I was completely baffled by John Gallagher on the right side and Mikey Ambrose on the left side of Kendall Edwards as your three center backs. And they made it work. You know, this is where the modern game's going, in my opinion. You're not seeing as much of teams be rigid in, well, Mikey Ambrose is a left back, and that's all he can play. Remember the things that were said when Javier Mascherano moved to a center back at Barcelona. It's like, he's a defensive midfielder. He can't play center back. He's too little. He can't do that. Well, he's a great soccer player, and he understands the game, and he reads it well. Yes, he can do that. It can work. I thought Ambrose was very good in that role. You could pick on him if you're an opponent. You could play direct if you get the ball, and you could try to pick on him. But then also the trade-off, what we saw a lot of in the first half, was Mikey Ambrose in possession as a left-sided center back, being able to use his outstanding left foot in passing and building up attacks. It was a lot of fun to see, and it was a very different way of seeing it. It was cool to get to see so many different players in roles that were a bit of a test for them. Gordon Wilde as a wingback. Can't say I would have expected to see that. Looked pretty good. Dion Pereira with the second group. He looked very good. And he's a guy that will be knocking on that door for playing time. But he's going to be knocking on the same door that Andrew Carlton's knocking on, that Ezequiel Barco's knocking on, that Pity Martinez is knocking on, that Tito Villalba's knocking on, maybe Julian Gressel knocking on. That's this competition for spots. And that's maybe the most fun about this is you look at some teams around the league and you look at the talent they have, and it's, okay, well, I've got three guys who can possibly play as a right back, and, man, I'm not really excited about any of them. Who's going to be the best of this lot to get the job? You look at some of the position battles with Atlanta United, and you're going to have some very good players left out. That's just a fact.
Yeah. And for me, that's the fun part of this time of year. But I think that the fun part of the anticipation of the season and knowing that you're going to need this personnel for all the different competitions that you're going to be in, for all the different competitions that you're hoping to make deep runs in, I think that having all of this personnel only benefits you in the long run, and seeing what they can do in a fluid system of ideas, I think, A, it benefits the player. B, it benefits the squad. C, I think that it benefits the approach, knowing that you're going to be chasing after things in MLS, in CONCACAF Champions League, in Open Cup, and all of these other things. And also, one point that you made before I started talking, it's when Atlanta, if Atlanta United has possession, when Atlanta United has possession, they can do all of these things. And you saw yesterday how they're able to possess the ball. And so I think that having possession as that element, yeah, they can do all these things. And we saw that they can do it with the ball yesterday too.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick break. We'll start getting into your overreactions after this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Sauger down here, Overreaction Thursday, February 7th. Atlanta United, 2 preseason matches that if you didn't get a chance to see them yesterday, you can watch on the Atlanta United YouTube, social media pages. The links should still be active. It was a lot of fun to get a chance to call those. Thank you to AT&T for making that happen. Not every club allows the behind closed doors matches to actually not be behind all the closed doors. We found a door. AT&T opened it for us. We went in. We called the game. It was fun. Let's get into the overreactions, though, and we've got a few that we need to talk about. A couple different folks. Jim Lepp and Trains have both mentioned Michael Parkhurst in different ways. Jim Lepp said, "It appeared to me that our captain has lost at least a half, if not full step. I understand preseason form, but Larry certainly looked ready. Am I wrong?" And Trains said Parky needs to improve. That's one of his one of the question marks there. What did you think about Michael Parkhurst yesterday? He was playing as a right center back. It was Miles Robinson in the middle. It was Leandro Gonzalez-Perez on the left. Little different role, actually a very different role than we've seen Parkhurst in here in Atlanta. He's played that role before, but he hasn't played it in an Atlanta United shirt. He's generally been the middle of the 3 center backs. What did you think of him as a right center back?
Well, I take yesterday, and there was one instance that I saw on the stream, and it stuck with me, and I'll use that as the basis for my opinion. There was one moment where the cameras caught Michael Parkhurst in a discussion with Frank DeBoer. DeBoer was on the bottom row of the stands, if memory serves, and he's giving instruction to Cap as Cap is looking up and taking that instruction. I looked at yesterday as a learning day, and if it's a place he's been before but not in what Frank DeBoer's idea of that positioning is, I took yesterday as a training day and a learning day. I wasn't necessarily looking at it as something that was like, oh, he lost a step or whatever. I didn't look at it that way at all. I looked at it as a training day and an exercise for Cap to do what Coach wanted him to do in that new position. I didn't read anything into it.
I mean, you can look at the physical side of it and still keep that in mind that you're playing a different role. I honestly didn't notice any elements where I thought he had lost a step, Jim and Trains. I didn't see that. I think it was a little bit different role, and he is not as fleet of foot as maybe Miles Robinson would have been there, or a Franco Escobar definitely would have been there. It's just not where he is in his career. But I think he also understands the game well enough to pick his spots when to go forward. I thought it was interesting that in both games, it was maybe the unexpected of the center back groupings that was playing in the middle. And I'd love to pick Frank DeBoer's mind about that. Miles Robinson was the middle of the center backs. He was not the right-sided center back like we saw before. I think a lot of it is down to, in this way of playing, your outside center backs, your left center back and your right center back, are going to get more involved in the build-up play. And that's not Miles' strong suit right now. It's just not. Parkhurst is much more comfortable being involved in build-up play, stepping forward when the situation calls for it. than Miles Robinson. I think Miles yesterday defensively was outstanding. I thought his work defending, anticipating plays, he's able to run with people, he's able to get up and win headers. Good on the ball, too. I thought he was very good on the ball, but Parkhurst is better on the ball. I want to see how that evolves. I want to see how that changes. If, where the trade-off is. Is it, okay, Miles is not quite as good on the ball, but he's more athletic. He can step forward a little bit more. Maybe he moves over to that right center back role. Maybe you do want to protect Parkhurst a little bit more. But if you've got Miles Robinson as your basically like your safety valve here, that's not a bad one to have because of his speed and his ability to cover ground. So these are the things that are a bit of an evolution from how it was before. I want to see how it continues to go. I'm very intrigued by the way this team played. You just don't see many teams in the United States. Honestly, don't see many teams around the world play a 3-4-3 because it is a very aggressive formation, and it's a very in-your-face way of playing because as much as Atlanta United has played on the edge in different ways in their 2 years, this is another way to do it, maybe even further out on that edge, because it happened a few times yesterday where if you have the ball and if you are playing with the ball in your own half, you're inviting trouble. You have to play with confidence. You have to be able to solve problems with the ball at your feet, because if you turn it over there, you're going to have 2v1s, 3v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s, 4v3s. You're going to have those situations. You are going to see times when Atlanta United has a turnover and gives up a bad goal. It's going to happen when they play this way. The trade-off is it's not going to happen very often, and if they do what they are training to do and control the possession and control the ball and control the pace of the game at times too, know when to put the foot down on the gas, know when to put the foot on the brake a little bit, hold up. If they're able to do that, you're going to see far more 3-0 games than 0-3 games. That's where this team is headed. They are trying to be dominant. They're trying to take a step up from just being a very good team that wins games to a team that dominates matches. And that's a bold choice. It's a bold move. I love it. I honestly am really excited after seeing these games. Not so much about the results, but the way of playing. It's a very attractive way to play. It's a fun way to play. I mean, at times, the game played out like a 3-2-5 formation yesterday, and that's why formation doesn't really matter. Your wingbacks in the 3-4-3 shape, the starting shape, are able to change things up for you on a regular basis. You have your center backs, you have your 2 central midfielders, you have your 3 up top that can move around a good bit, but it can go from a 3-4-3 to a 3-2-5 to a 5-2-2-1 very quickly. And that fluidity is very, very important, and it's going to be something that the team has to know where their teammates are around them. They have to know they can count on the guy next to them. They have to know that, okay, this guy made that run. Parker stepped up as the right center back because the opportunity called for it. Possession turned over. We're transitioning to defense very quickly. Who's going to fill that role? Is it Jeff Larenowitz dropping in because he sees it happen? Is it Miles Robinson sliding over? Is it Jeff dropping into the middle? Is it Remedi dropping into the middle? Those rotations and that transition from offense to defense, defense to offense, that's going to be the critical moments for this team. I thought they handled the transitions pretty well yesterday.
And it all goes back to bringing in a new coach. It's like, okay, what were the parameters for bringing in a new coach? Exciting brand of soccer, and this plays right into that immediately. And if you were looking for another overreaction, Joe Bost, who was with us from the beginning, he says Atlanta United is going to score 135 goals and win every trophy or cup available.
Yeah, they're not going to do that, Joe. It's okay. It's okay. Be excited. It's okay. It's good. But no, that's not going to happen. Not at all. New lifetime #1 hashtag NUFC fan. I like it. It is KTSCLT.
Oh, it's Kevin and Charlotte.
Kevin and Charlotte. Here are my Thursday thoughts for Soccer Down Here. Where are the Barco haters? Where are they? Where'd they go?
Yeah, I know.
What happened? Just
What
wondering.
happened was.
Just wondering. He looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my overreaction Thursday thought for Atlanta United. Barco will have more goals plus assists than Miggy. That's a bold proclamation, Kevin and Charlotte. It's hard to say. It's very hard to say at this point. It's way too early to make that proclamation in my mind. I can't go out on that ledge with you. It's a different way of playing. And we were talking with Jarrett about this on messages before the show. I don't think you can look at either Barco or Pity Martinez as a direct replacement for Miguel Almiron because the system, the style is different. That role doesn't exist in the way the team played yesterday. And that might not be the way the team plays in Costa Rica or in D.C. or at home against Cincinnati. It could look very different in all three of those. Keep that in mind. But the way the team played yesterday, Miguel's role from last year didn't really exist. But as a creator, as a playmaker, I think Barco is probably a little more natural as a creator than Miguel. I think Miguel turned into a great creator, and he did it differently. He did it with his speed and being able to create space with that speed. And when he created assists for others, when he created chances for others, it was because of that first. And if there wasn't an opportunity for him to finish, it was, okay, here's my chance I can create. Barco, I think, thinks about creating first. I think that's his mindset, is not to score goals himself. It's to create chances for others. That's where his head is. So Barco having more assists than Almiron, I could absolutely see that. And in the way they played yesterday, he'll have those opportunities. Goals, we'll have to see. It's a little hard to predict because you're not really thinking about that role being a goal-scoring role. However, if they play the way they finished yesterday, and it's three up top with Barco, Pity on either side of Joseph, and you're able to watch Ezekiel and Pity drop into the midfield and tuck in and switch sides and allow the wing play to come from the wing backs. When you get those three combining through the middle of the field, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for opponents. I don't know if you've ever seen the talent that you could have with those three in the middle of the field running a break. I don't know if you've ever had that kind of talent in this league. I don't know if you've had a team that's been willing to, one, bring that type of talent in, let them loose, and play the way that suits them. And it's just that ruthless. And that's going to be something to watch this season. And it's going to be something that Villalba's going to have to work hard to earn time over that trio. I think he is. And as good as Tito is, he's going to have to work very hard to earn that time in this type of shape. Because it's three attackers, and you've got four. Then you've got Carlton. Then you've got Dion Pereira. And I thought Dion was the most explosive of the second group. I loved his change of pace. I loved his work 1v1. That's what you want out of players in this role. So he fits the bill perfectly as well. It's not going to be easy to get on the field, and that's going to push Barco to greater heights. That's going to push Pity Martinez to greater heights. These are all good problems to have, but that playing time and that rotation is going to be something to watch for. I think Pereira will play with Atlanta United, too, a fair bit. You're not going to see Tito play there. I think Andrew will play there with Atlanta United, too, as well. But this is a year you want to see more from him at the first team as well, and he's going to have to really battle to get that time.
And like you said, it's a good problem to have. But remember, with schedule compression, multiple competitions, everyone is going to get their chance. And the ruthless aggression that we anticipate seeing from Atlanta United, it's going to be fun. I mean, the bottom line, it is going to be fun to watch when it is humming like this, and to see all of these different parts. and all of the new parts that have been brought in. For me, obviously, you look at who came in, who is here from last year. That is the established commodity. You know that what they're capable of, but now you're just trying to see how they integrate with a new coach and his philosophy. But then you see, someone like a Dion Pereira, and then you get into the guys that we saw in the Fullerton match yesterday, like a Kendall Edwards showing up and doing really well, and Bashti and Double A. And so all of these guys that are here, tremendous opportunities for all of them, with all of the matches that are going to be played, that you hope are going to be played. But to see it just unleashed like this, it's going to be a blast. So everybody buy seatbelts.
Yeah, seatbelts and airbags are going to be needed at the Benz with the way this team plays. Let's take a quick break. We'll get into more Overreaction Thursday after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Overreaction Thursday. Atlanta United remains undefeated in preseason play. 6-1 over Xolos, mostly U20s, some reserves. 39-year-old goalkeeper Luis Michel also in the match.
You heard a quad.
Yeah, he did. I mean, it happens. He's 39 years old. Cubo Torres made an appearance as well. Remember him. Scored double-digit goals for Houston and then has been on mothballs ever since going back to Mexico. It's been a weird career for that guy. Lit it up when he came to the U.S. with Chivas USA. Went back to Mexico. It just didn't work. Came to Houston, did well. Goes back to Mexico. It hasn't worked. He did get the goal for Xolos yesterday. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with Cubo Torres. It's baffling to me. Houston made the decision to let him go and go with Mauro Manotas up top, and they got it right. They absolutely made the right call. More overreactions. Vine City FC on Twitter. PT is a nutmeg machine and a GIF that I have not seen before. Nutmegatron. I think PT and Barco are going to have an ongoing bet as to who can nutmeg more opponents. Because as good as PT was in his 40 minutes yesterday, the run that Barco had through the middle, I was about to jump out of my seat and start throwing things. It was so exciting. Where he flicks it around the one defender, he beats the other on the spin, and then he nutmegs the third one, it looks like. It's just absurd to see that.
B button is for Barco.
It's crazy. It's going to be fun. And those two 1v1, you saw it in the game yesterday. You know, you beat a few people like that, and they're going to get kind of ticked off, and they're going to kick you, and they're going to give you free kicks, and then you can do damage with those as well, as we saw Joseph Martinez scoring off a set piece. It's going to be fun. I do think this is going to be a team that is going to play more aggressively than we saw previously, in a bolder way than we've seen previously, and in a way that sometimes it's not going to come off. Man, it's exciting. I love it. I want to see a team like this push the envelope of how you approach a match. Really go for it. Really be in your face about playing this way. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm very interested to see how opponents try to deal with this. Do they do what some teams would do against a Barcelona-esque team? And this is not Barca of the Pep Guardiola days, but there's similarities in the fact that they're going to try to control a match via possession, and they're explosive going forward. So you really have two options. You can sit back and bunker and try to absorb pressure and hit on the break. And some teams will do that, and some teams will do that effectively. Or you can step up and try to play and pick your spots to press, pick your spots to maybe try to get a double team and trap, and not sit back. And I think that is the more dangerous way for the controlling team. That's more difficult. It's riskier, because if you step up and try to play against a team with a Barco, with a PT, who can beat you on the dribble and then create 3v2s or 2v1s or what have you going forward, yeah, you're toast. But if you force that turnover when a team like Atlanta United is controlling possession and getting more numbers forward, you can catch them exposed when you transition. It's going to be a game of transitions every time with Atlanta United. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm most interested to see how Herediano approaches it, how DC United approaches it, how Cincinnati approaches it. These are the games that are going to be a chess match in a lot of different ways between Frank de Boer and the opposition. It's going to be interesting.
Chandler Creel with an overreaction. He says, with the additions of Breck Shea, Florentine Pogba, Dion Pereira, PT, AA, and others, we should be able to rotate players in the starting 11 and still crush opponents. Our club has become scary good.
Yeah, for now, it is, and it's okay to think that. Just don't go too far with it. I think some folks, obviously, after a 7-1 against Seattle and a 6-1 against Cholos, yeah, you're the sky's the limit. But these games didn't count. The opponents aren't taking it in the same way that Atlanta United is. You would see different tactics in a match that matters. Keep all that in mind here. You're going to see potentially more rotation. I think as much down to the schedule as the talent on hand. But it's going to be down to these players to earn that rotation. Nothing's going to be handed out. If Dion Pereira is not showing it in matches with ATL UTD2 or in training, he's not going to get those opportunities. Somebody else will. But now you add Florentine Pogba to a center back setup, and there's been a lot of talk that he could play on the left. Maybe, I don't know about a left wing back role so much in this type of setup that we saw yesterday, but a left back in a 4-man back line, yeah, maybe. But this is also a player, I think sometimes we get a little blinded by the last name with Florentine Pogba.
Yeah.
He wasn't a starter at Saint Etienne, and he's been out of contract since last season ended.
And that should tell you something.
It has to. It has to. One, it's going to take him some time to get up to fitness. I mean, that's the number one thing here is he hasn't played a competitive match for roughly 9 months. That's something to keep in mind in a big way with him. He's going to need time. Then is he a guy who fits chemistry-wise with the center backs? Does he need a little more time to build that up? Is he a guy who's better than the center backs you have? Don't know. But I think sometimes you hear that last name and it's, oh, he's going to step in and be a starter. Who's going to the bench? I don't know if that's the case. I really don't. I think this is a much better group than it gets credit for, and I thought Miles Robinson stepped up yesterday and really showed that.
And that's the thing, is that I think that all of the pieces that you're seeing, all the players that you're seeing, one, look at their performances game-by-game basis. Take them individually, but then take them into the context of, okay, there's going to be other players competing for playing time in positions or similar positions where these players could be plugged in, where they could flourish. So right now, take it, and this is going to sound amazingly cliche, and I should put a quarter in the jar. Take it a game at a time with everybody that you see. See how they fit into the situations on a daily basis. And then take that information and file it away going forward. Yes, it's good stuff. You get to see where things go. But remember, just take things in context right now, and that things have to be done on the hop because of Herediano coming before we know it.
Let's talk left side. As we were mentioning, Florentine Pogba is possibly a left back in this group. The Colonel with an overreaction Thursday comment, and he's not the only one. Breck Shea is one that has room for improvement. Imposing figure, but not a difference maker, appears to be a depth piece. That came up a few times during the match yesterday. I didn't see any negatives from Breck Shea, honestly. Not a ton of positive moments for him going forward either. And that is what you're going to expect out of a wingback in that type of shape. You want them to impact the game. I thought Gordon Wild was surprisingly effective on the right side, even though he's left-footed, playing as an inverted right wingback, which is not something I would have ever expected to mention with an MLS team. It's pretty cool. Breck is going to have to be more impactful on that side if he's going to get those minutes, because in this type of shape with a three center backs and wing backs, you're looking at Breck, you're looking at George Bello, you're looking at Mikey Ambrose, potentially Jose Hernandez, although it looks like he's going to spend time with the twos this year. And Breck's going to have to show that he's impacting the match more than Bello or Ambrose could. In a four-man back line, he's going to have to show that he's solid defensively more so than a Pogba or a Bello or an Ambrose would be. It's different challenges in both ways. As a winger, he's going to have to show that he's more impactful than a Barco or a Pitti or a Pereira or a Villalba or a Carlton. All tough challenges. I thought he was fine. I didn't think there was anything glaring bad about Breck Shea's game yesterday. It just wasn't, incredibly impactful. I think some of that's down to the way the game played out too. It wasn't really a game where there was a ton of opportunities for him to get loose out down the left. He had one that he played back first time to create a chance in the middle. That was good. Didn't really get many 1v1 opportunities to run at people. Didn't have a lot of defending to do. I thought he was fine. But Bello, to me, is the guy who can be more impactful from what we've seen. And I thought yesterday, different level of competition, Bello had more of an impact going forward than Shea did. Shea was maybe a little steadier. Bello had a couple mistakes, couple loose touches that would worry you a little bit. But he also could make more things happen. And if he can dial down the mistakes just a little bit and keep that impact up and his speed, it's something that none of the other options in that position have. I think Bello can be that guy. But I think Breck Shea, if he's a depth piece, he's a really valuable one because he can play a lot of different roles for you.
Yeah, agreed on that. And since you mentioned it, and I'm going to bring Riley's question to the floor, but I'm also going to kind of couch it a little bit with my own response, because he wants to know how much playing time you think Gordon Wild's going to be getting this year. I think it's going to come down to competition in practice on a daily basis. It's going to come down to the opponent that you're going to be facing and what you think the challenges are for that opponent. And then I'm always going to go back to schedule compression and multiple competitions. So how do you do on a daily basis? Who are you playing? Where do you best fit? I think that when you ask that of pretty much anybody who isn't, Barco, Tito, Miggy Joseph, P.T. Joseph, you're always going to have that question of how much playing time. But I think the best answer that I can give is depends.
Yeah, I would agree. The international slot does factor in the Gordon Wild discussion as well, because you are going to have to make sure you have an international slot available, or you've moved pieces around to create an international slot with him on the first team. He's a player who, from what we saw in Charleston last year, is capable of spectacular, is also capable of disappearing on you in games. You want less disappearing acts, more spectacular. You also want more steady, too. You need a little bit of that sometimes. You need a higher baseline. I liked him as a wingback, and it's something I wouldn't have expected to see him in. It was a different match, and we'd have to see if he could do that against a higher level of competition, or if maybe he's more suited to playing, in the wide positions up top in the line of three. But then you're back to that competition battle. I'd like to see him not go out on loan this year. I'd like to see him with Atlanta United too, and training with the second team and with the first team at times to battle for a spot. I think his ability with his left foot gives him a lot of opportunities to get time. It's just going to be how much. It's all back to that impact. Same thing, same conversation we just had with Breck Shea. It's all down to how much can he positively impact the match and not make mistakes to diminish that impact. For a young player who's in his second year as a pro, that's part of the discussion for most. So he's going to have a lot of people in front of him to get playing time, Riley, but I think the bulk of his playing time is going to come with ATL UTD too. And if an opportunity presents itself, he's going to have to make the most of it with the first team. It's not going to be easy for him, I think, to slot into first team minutes in 2019. He's going to have to be a little patient and wait and earn his opportunity. Let's take our final break of hour number one. Get your overreactions in on Twitter at SoccerDownHere. Use the Overreaction Thursday hashtag if you can. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Final segment, hour number one, SDH, February 7th edition, talking Atlanta United and Xolos and Cal State Fullerton from yesterday. 1-0 over Cal State Fullerton, 6-1 over Xolos from Club Tijuana. Pretty good day if you're an Atlanta United fan. John, you had a question you wanted to ask.
Yeah, as someone who went to summer camps 75 years ago playing the sport, and it was something that happened to me way back then, but you mentioned it in the previous segment. I kind of wanted to ask it as I'm still trying to learn the game. You mentioned Gordon Wild being a left-footed player on the right-hand side. And I wanted to ask advantages, disadvantages, other than it being a change-up from a natural position of trying to introduce the ball into play. What is the advantages and disadvantages of doing something like that?
It's becoming more and more common. I think the old school way of thinking was if he's a winger, if he's an outside back, he's got to play on the side of his stronger foot because that's how you put crosses in. But the game's not just about crosses anymore. I think that's probably a little bit of the English influence in our game as well. I think the game's evolving a lot and really fast, and it's just so much easier to now. You know, if a new manager is doing something very creative in the Chilean league, that's going to get out pretty quick, and it's going to be on video spread around the world in a couple of weeks. Like that's just how it goes. So this is something that you started to see more managers go to. I mean, again, probably Pep Guardiola made it the most popular and most well-known to play inverted wingers and especially have guys cutting in. The advantage for a Gordon Wild, if he's on the right side, is to cut in and rip a shot with his left foot. I mean, to just break it down as simple as possible, that's it. You're able to be more of a goal threat playing on the opposite wing because you're cutting inside to shoot. If he's on the left side, he's cutting in and he would be shooting with his off foot. He'd have to cut back to the left. Now, the disadvantage is crossing. He's going to need to cut back to his left more often than not to deliver a better ball. That takes a little more time. That takes a little bit more 1v1 skill from him. It depends on your game strategy. It depends on what you're trying to do, and it depends on where you want your threats to come from. I think you need to have the ability to do it. I think you need to have a team who has players who can do that because then it can change up an opposition in a big way. If you have a player who is predominantly left-footed, and Pity Martinez is a little more two-footed for sure, but he is a lefty. If you have him on the right, he's going to be more of a goal-scoring threat that defenses have to worry about. If you have him on the left, maybe not quite as much. If you start him on the left and then move him to the right, it changes the way the defense looks at the way Atlanta's building up attacks. So it's all about moving the pieces around, and do you want him whipping in crosses? Then you want him on his strong side. If you want him cutting inside to shoot, you want him on the opposite side. That's a very simple way of looking at it. Obviously, you want a player who can play with both feet, and that's where you want to get to, is you want somebody who can be a threat with both, but that's not always the case. So inverted wingers, it's becoming much more of a thing. Inverted outside backs, inverted wing backs, it's becoming much more of a thing. It just gives you a different dimension. We'll get into more of that. We'll get into more of your overreactions. We'll talk a little bit about the league news as well. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back hour number 2 after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, February 7th. Still overreacting, underreacting, on par reacting to Atlanta's action yesterday in preseason. 6-1 over Cholos, 1-0 over Cal State Fullerton. Next up is LAFC at Bank of California Stadium in a friendly behind closed doors, but media will be there, so you'll get some reports from our friend Doug Robertson at the AJC. Make sure you're following him, Doug Robertson, AJC on Twitter, Atlanta United News Now on Facebook. Then one more preseason friendly against the LA Galaxy behind closed doors before coming back to Atlanta, unveiling a new kit, and then preparing final prep for Herediano CONCACAF Champions League opener February 21st. Yesterday looked pretty good. Looked like training has been going very well. The team looked very, I think, organized, and this is across the board, even the second team, which had maybe more players playing out of normal positions than the first, looked very organized and looked like this team has been well drilled in what Frank DeBoer and his staff want to see out of it. One more from Jim Lepp says that I would also suggest that the reduction of crossing is also a condition of the pitch. Center third of the pitch was frequently torn up. Wings were cleaner and enabled better ball control. The field was just heavy in general. It held up really well considering how much rain they've had in Southern California. But it was heavy, and you saw at times like the weight of passes being slowed down, and players had to adjust a little bit to it. That's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing is how much does this team cross? I don't think they're going to cross a ton. I don't think it really suits the group you have. I think if you are able to create an opportunity for Joseph Martinez 1v1 with a center back, yeah, you like your odds. But he's not going to have a bunch of other big guys around him to just cross it into the trees and see what happens. I think you're going to see far more often looking for opportunities out wide to cut inside. And this is something that Manchester City has done a lot of. It's been part of Guardiola's evolution where you have your wing play and you're trying to create opportunities, overloads, 2v1s, 3v2s. But then you want to get inside and you want to cut balls back from the end line diagonally back across to the top of the six or to the penalty spot. You see them score a lot of goals that way. Julian Gressel thrives in that type of setup where he's able to get wide, get a little inside, and then cut the ball back across. That is right in Atlanta's wheelhouse. I think you're going to see a lot of that this season, along with just combination play in the final third. You know, Joseph Martinez is highly underrated in his ability to combine with others. Barco, it's part of his DNA. Pity Martinez, same thing. It's part of his DNA. You're going to see a ton of combination play between them. I think it was the third goal for Joseph that had 3 layoffs in it and maybe a slight back heel as one of the layoffs. It was beautiful to watch. It was a lot of fun. That's what you're going to see when this team's able to get into the final third and create some overloads. And that's always what you're looking for. With the way you're going to play in this type of shape, or if you adjust the shape a little bit, you're always looking for those overloads. You're looking for a 1v1 at the very heart of it because you have a lot of players in this team who are great in 1v1 situations with the ball at their feet. You also want to create 2v1s and 3v2s and those types of situations because one, you obviously have the numerical advantage. Two, you're then able to look to open the play up by going to the opposite side as the opposition says, oh, crap, they've got a 3v2 on our left side. Get over there. And everything shifts defensively to that side, creates an opportunity to switch it. It's those types of things. That's why when you have a team that is going to dominate possession like Atlanta United wants to this season, when they do it, you're trying to move the pieces around for the opposition. Two, the longer you have possession and the more numbers you get forward, the more imperative it is that you don't turn the ball over where you can get hurt. And there were a couple of times we saw that yesterday where there were bad turnovers. Xolos had opportunities. How the team recovers defensively in those situations is going to be critical. And those are the things that your 3 center backs, your wing backs, and your 2 central midfielders all have to be on the same page as to how the team rotates to cover those positions as you go.
And, in seeing it yesterday and seeing how they're hopping back in for those, and I know that we're looking at small sample size against Fullerton and Xolos, and it wasn't a number one team for Xolos, but to see recovery for me when you're trying to get acclimated to systems, and if you're being this aggressive offensively, then turning things over, and not necessarily what I mean by turning things over is just how you transition from one aspect to the other. But what I want to see is how well and how quickly they get back into a defensive mode, and then in turn trying to create the chance that they just lost. And then seeing what Guardiola does with Manchester City with very small passing spaces in between, so that way if there is a turnover, they can hop back in defensively and try to create a turnover to get possession back. I think that Manchester City, I think, is one of those teams that if you're looking for comparison studies, then keep an eye on Premier League play and sit there and see how they do it when it goes from,
to a degree, because Manchester City also does some different things. Like, I don't know if we'll see what Greg Berhalter, the wrinkle he added to the national team that I'm assuming he's watched a lot of Pep Guardiola's work, and that outside back in a 4-man back line, tucking inside in possession to help keep it and turning into 3 in the back when you do that, getting more numbers into the midfield, but then reverting to a right back when you defend. What I watched yesterday in transition was a team that was comfortable with their 3 center backs, and let's say they don't step up, it's still the 3 of them who recover. Your wing back's able to recover to create a line of 5. And then they did it a couple different ways depending on how the opposition was attacking them. A few times when the opposition had sustained possession, they dropped into a 5-4-1. And it was a line of 5 with the 4 midfielders in front of them filling the gaps. So if you look at it as a stack, if you basically made squares out of the players to fill lanes, and you have your 5 that are filling from the left touchline to the right touchline all the way across, your 4 was positioned in front of that, in between the lines, in between the vertical lines. And that's a very effective way to defend when you need to. And to see Barco and Martinez and Villalba drop in and do that as needed, that's a great sign. That means they understand the transitions that Frank de Boer is wanting to see. You also saw at times when the opposition had the ball centrally and you were dropping defensively, it looked more like a 5-2-2-1, where you were able to kind of try to box in a player who has the ball for the opposition in the middle of the field. You could box them in between Remedi, Lorenowitz, Barco, Pitti, or Tito. That was also effective. So you saw a few different ways that they transitioned. You also saw, and something that's going to be a very important part of the transition play, is the delay tactics that you're going to see from your central midfielders and your center backs in these situations. You saw it play out a few different ways. Jeff Lorenowitz in one. We saw Jeff commit the classic Jeff Lorenowitz foul as needed. When the ball turns over, the opposition is breaking, he commits the foul. Takes a yellow card, smiles and nods, and moves on. You're going to have to see some of that. That's part of the game. Also, you also saw, and I think it was in the first game, it might have been in the second, where opposition takes over at midfield, they're attacking the center back. I think it might have been Miles. It was either Miles or Kendall Edwards who did it, and either one, it's a smart move. It's a very savvy move. They don't go for the initial steal. They don't go for the initial tackle. They force the guy wide, and they force him to not be able to enter the final third. What that does is it allows your teammates time to recover. It also takes the ball away from a dangerous position, and it forces it away from goal. So having that patience at times to, okay, the play is turned over, we're exposed, we've got to make a quick decision. And you can try to win the ball immediately. That can be risky because if you don't, then you're even more exposed. You can commit the foul. And if you're on a yellow card already, if you're in a situation where, man, you might not be able to commit that foul without seeing even a red, you got to be careful. Or you've got to delay and force the player out wide. You've got to shepherd them away from goal. These are some of those decisions that will happen in transition to watch for Atlanta United. Had a good question from Trains. Let me pull this back up about the shape and style. And it was about the inverted wingers and them tucking inside. It's a concern in some ways, and it's something that you have to watch for. Although we did see, as Trains pointed out, the opposite at times last year where we saw just crosses being pumped in repeatedly. And that's not what we want to see with this team. But Train said, in regards to inverted wingers, do you think we'll get too narrow with players cutting in? Some of our goals still come from crosses, but I'd like to never see a repeat of the Seattle or Portland games with tons of them either. If you see a team playing in this way that's just pumping in crosses, that means that the opposition is taking away what they want to do. I don't think there is a concern about getting too narrow. I really don't. If you look at teams who play in this way, you're very comfortable to get 5 guys inside the outside edges of the 18, in that zone 14 and across type of area where you're talking about the area just outside the 18-yard box and inside the sides of the 18. It's a very compact, crowded space. It's where most goals come from. And when you have players like Barco, Joseph, Pity, Tito, who are comfortable playing quick, you like that because you're creating mismatches. And you're also drawing defenders in to deal with it. So if you have those 3, let's say what happens as we saw yesterday a lot, where Barco and Pity kind of dropped in behind Joseph a little bit centrally, and you create a little bit of that triangle. The defense is going to have to deal with that. They're going to have to flood bodies in there. If you can't win your battles in there with those 3, you've got the opportunity to spray it out wide at that point and then open things up again. So it's always about creating spaces on the field and creating mismatches and overloads. You can create space by cutting inside and getting things kind of packed in, create space out wide for a George Bello, for a Julian Gressel, for a Franco Escobar to run into and then be able to put in a cross or run in and penetrate the final third, running in diagonally at goal and unbalancing the defense again. You want to make the opposition uncomfortable with all of these. I'm not too worried about getting too narrow. Now, the question comes when the ball turns over in that situation, are you exposed out wide because you got too narrow? That's where your wingbacks have to make quick decisions. That's where Remedi, Lorenowitz, Nagbe, whoever your central midfielders are, have to make very quick decisions in how they deal with that situation. Do they drift out wide? Do they commit a foul? Do they delay? Do they try to win the ball if they see the opportunity? That's how you have to navigate it when you get narrow, when the transition to defense happens. But in the attack, get as narrow as you want because I trust Barco and Pity and Joseph to play their way out of it.
All right, here's a question that just popped into my head for an overreaction question. And I will pose it to you first, sir.
Okay.
Obviously, Pity is at the top of this list. But which 3 players who are in camp now are you most looking forward to see their game take the next step in 2019?
Well, the game take the next step. I wouldn't put PT in that because, I mean, we know what he is. If you've watched any of his time at River Plate, if you've watched his appearances with the Argentine national team, he's outstanding as he is. I don't know what next step would be for him. Miles Robinson has room to grow. I'm excited to see it. I do think that he can turn into a U.S. men's national team level center back. I think he's got all the tools. And I think now he's got a couple of years of experience at the pro level and the confidence and the IQ to continue to develop. He's still young. He's still very young. I think he could be a national team center back for sure, and I'm excited to see that progression for him. Kendall Edwards is an easy answer because he's an academy player, and you will see him continue to grow because he's not even on a pro deal yet. I think he's a huge candidate for one, whether it's a homegrown deal or a USL deal. It honestly doesn't really matter because he's going to play mostly in USL this year, no matter which contract he's on. To continue to watch him add those elements that I just talked about with Miles Robinson, those soccer IQ moments, that ability to make decisions quicker, where he's not just relying on his physical gifts, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. George Bello. I mean, Bello has every opportunity here to be a wingback with this team that could be one of the best teams we've ever seen play in this country. And yeah, I'm going back to the NASL days and the Cosmos days. This is a team that could be the best team we've ever seen play here. And George Bello at 17 could be a big part of it. To see that progression for him, to be that DeAndre Yedlin in a lot of ways, when he came forward in Seattle, and it was, wow, this kid is special. And he's playing a lot of minutes as a teenager. Bello's younger, and I think he's further along than Yedlin was when he was at this stage, just a couple games into his MLS career, going into that season where it looks like he could be the guy. Those are three, and those are all defensive players. That's the thing about it is I think we talk a lot about the attack with this team, and we will all season long. But you have some very talented defensive players that are already great, like an LGP, like a Parkhurst. But you have room for the next generation in Kendall Edwards to grow and the now generation in George Bello and Miles Robinson to grow. They have a lot of upside.
Riley went Barco Bello Carlton for his third.
I mean, you can pull out any player in the team that's under the age of 25.
38 names, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definite. Like, there's room for most players to grow. I think Barco played with a lot of confidence yesterday, which is great to see. I was never one who was really down on him with his performances last year. I felt like up until his off-the-field stuff, he was as strong as anybody else. He scored some big goals. He also created a slew of chances. I don't know where the negativity for his on-field play became such a big deal. I understand some of the frustration because he likes to dribble left to right. He wasn't as much of a north-south guy. I think you're seeing a little more of that killer instinct this year. It's so far in preseason. Now, seriously, it's a game and a couple clips. But, yeah, he looks a little different. He looks more confident. He looks more comfortable. He looks like he knows that he has the opportunity for this to be his team in a lot of ways. Now, you have a Joseph. You have a Pitti. You have a Villalba as well. But Barco on the ball is as talented as anybody in the league, let alone in this team. He's, I think, growing into his belief of that fact. So he looked like a killer yesterday. That was great. Carlton needs to develop something that we've seen Barco do, something that we've seen Dion Pereira do yesterday. He needs that change of pace. He had a very good run through the middle that created the goal for Romario Williams. We saw elements yesterday of what you and I saw with him at ATL UTD2, where he was the focal point of creating chances, and he took that responsibility on, and he did well with it. He's not – I don't think he's as athletically gifted as a Pereira, even as a Barco. I think Barco's faster. He's got to be even more tidy with the ball and with the chances he creates. It puts a little pressure on him. It does. I think he can rise to it. I really do. His creativity, especially from a passing perspective, I think Carlton's off the charts in that way. You've got to see, just like we talked about with Breck Shea, Bello, that positive impact on a match. You need to see Carlton impact matches more. And that's something that he's going to be tasked to do, whether it's ATL UTD2 or whether it's opportunities with the first team. And I think he's going to see some early in the season with CONCACAF Champions League. I think Carlton's going to have opportunities. He's really got to make the most of it. This is an important year for him. It's a very important year because young players do get to a point where it's okay. You're not looked at as a young player anymore. You've been here long enough. It's time to see it. I think he's got it. It's just when he gets his chances, you got to see it. That's not even saying like he hasn't been showing. I'm not criticizing at all. It's just this is a team that has the ability, unlike others in this league with young talent coming through. If they're not seeing it, they can go get somebody immediately. And this is a team that spent $15 million on an Ezequiel Barco and 12 or 13 or whatever it ends up being for Pity Martinez, not to mention Tito Villalba, all players who are going to take minutes from Andrew Carlton. He's going to have to battle to earn them. He can. He has the ability to do it. It's just doing it on a daily basis. And when the light is shining on him, showing up in a big way. Because you never know how many opportunities you get. If you're at a Philadelphia, a Real Salt Lake, where clubs don't really have that ability to go bring in a Barco or a Pity, yeah, you're going to keep getting more opportunities. You're not going to see as many here because you're going to have more competition. It puts more pressure on the young talent coming through for sure. That's not a bad thing. It's really not. It's a good thing. It's going to push everybody to a higher level. It's just going to be a challenge. And that's professional sports. That's where you're at. Let's take a break. More overreactions after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
welcome back. Overreaction Thursday here on SDH, talking Atlanta United preseason. Lots of responses from you guys. Thanks for listening this morning. AA 5 Stripes says this: last 2 years, there was a major drop-off between first team 11 compared to second team 11. Example, Open Cup play. Our current team seems like two teams that could beat Orlando and a lot of other MLS teams. Maybe an overreaction there. That's a little harsh.
It's Thursday.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely a deeper team. Some of that's just down to it's year 3, and Andrew Carlton's been here for 3 years now. Miles Robinson has been here 3 years now. You're starting to see that development over time. You've strengthened your academy to where you're producing Lagos Kungas and Chris Goslin's been here now. This is a big year for Chris Goslin, and he's not with the first team right now. He's with the second team. You've added players like Barco and Pitti. Like, this is just a different level than it was at 2017. But the second level of it has improved alongside. And I agree. This is a team that should be more competitive on all fronts. This is a second group, like we saw yesterday, that is very good. John Gallagher, he's ready. He can play minutes in MLS. Mike Ambrose, we know he can play minutes in MLS. Kendall Edwards, I think, is definitely ready for minutes in USL. We saw 4 starts from him last year. Depending on what he wants to do about turning pro, he could be a guy who plays 30 games in USL this year. Anderson Asedu, he's a guy who I think will easily play a lot of games in USL. Can play some at the MLS level. Don't think he's there as a starter yet, and I think it's a big ask for him to be. If he plays 30 games in USL this year, that's completely fine. Amir Bashti, second-round pick. I loved his work rate yesterday. Seemed to pop up everywhere. Very inconsistent, I think is a fair way to put it, with the ball at his feet. He had some great passes. He had some bad passes. Lost the ball a few times. Immediately fought to win it back. The positives definitely outweighed the negatives. He did not look like a typical second-round pick. He's a guy I'd love to see get a year at ATL UTD2 to see what he can turn into. I think he fits what this team wants to do. I think stylistically he fits it. So it's a deeper team than ever before. I think if you took a pure second team from this group and had them play a bunch of games against MLS competition, they'd struggle. A pure second team would struggle in that situation. A team in the U.S. Open Cup play that is a mix between some first team, some second team, will be far better positioned to win Open Cup matches in the early rounds this year than they have in previous years. It's just a deeper team.
And how much, and I keep going back to this point, how much fun is that going to be to see this team that is 18 to 22 deep running through all of these competitions? I mean, has it honestly sunk into you that Herediano is just around the corner, literally?
No. I need more time. Got lots of studying to do on the Costa Rican champions, who are starting to turn it around a little bit. They had a slow start, but they're building up to this. So Will has a good point. So that, I think comparing last year to this year is apples to oranges. Last year was building fitness and developing a group ready for the long haul in MLS. This year had a significantly shorter off period and a new coach without the relational capital to outgrind them. That's replying to Nick Alifi's comment about preseason results and fitness and this and that. From what I've heard, and I don't know for sure, I'm not there every day, I think this team so far is working more on a different type of fitness than we saw last year. I remember Greg Garza telling us last year after the Nashville game that the team really hadn't worked with the ball much up until that week. A lot of fitness work. This group, from what we saw day one, where they ran some 11v11, I think this team is working on fitness with the ball. And also controlling possession is a way to manage fitness, both, in a game when you're getting tired, you play keep away. You just control the game that way. You also, in work, in training sessions, with the ball, build up, a little different kind of fitness. Hopefully that translates. It's a different approach, and we'll see how that translates. If you control possession, you're going to be just fine with fitness, period. If your game model is to control possession and not allow the opposition to dictate the terms of the match through having the ball, you don't have to be that fit if you have possession all day. It's just a fact. You have to be fit to play in this league because of the challenges it presents. But why do you think Andrea Pirlo was so good with Juventus for so long? And then when he showed up at NYC after, playing in a Champions League final, if I remember correctly? If I remember the timeline correctly, he played in a Champions League final, showed up at NYC and looked like a traffic cone. Because NYC did not control possession. Juventus did. You can, if you had, was it Vidal who was playing next to Pirlo at Juve? I think at that time it was.
Sounds right. I defer to Olivier.
If you've got a guy like that and he's going to do all the running for you, yeah, you can have a player like Pirlo fit. But then when you put that player in a different situation and you're not controlling possession, he looks old. If you are controlling possession, you can control your fitness in a much better way. It's a different approach. It's a very different approach. If you're going to be a pressing team, man, you better be running a lot. you better have your fitness up, because you're not going to be able to dictate the game through possession and through slowing the pace down when you want to. You're going to have to play 100 miles an hour. Red Bulls have been doing a lot of running off the ball, I would assume, in preseason training. Atlanta United, not so much. A lot of work with the ball to play in this way. And it appears to be all in on being a dominating possession team, something we've watched Kansas City become more of in recent years and something they've had great success with. I think the difference with Atlanta is you're controlling the possession with this group, but then you're also using the possession that you're controlling to create 1v1, 2v1, 3v2 situations where your individual talent can shine. That's something that Kansas City doesn't really have. They control the possession. They're not creating as many goal-scoring chances. Atlanta United controlling possession and creating chances like crazy. It can be very effective. It can be very, very effective. It can also, when you run up against a team that doesn't allow you to control possession, when they control it themselves, so Atlanta, Kansas City will be really interesting, or when they disrupt you consistently. Pressing teams can do that. Bunkering teams can do that too. It's not really one is better than the other. I personally prefer a team that doesn't bunker against a team that's going to control possession. I think you're better off to kind of play with them. You're going to have some moments where Atlanta United doesn't control possession in a match and doesn't look as good as they did yesterday, or in games where they dominate possession and create 15 chances. It's going to happen. Don't freak out. But this is how the team's going to be built. They're going to want to have 60% of the ball, and they're going to want to create 12 to 15 chances in a game, every game. And that's what they're going to play to every game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
You mentioned Sporting. Who else would be those teams off the top of your head that would be challenging for this particular style of play coming into 19?
It's a good question. We're going to have to wait and see a little bit. What I'm curious to see is how teams decide to play against Atlanta more than anything. That's what I'm waiting to see, because it's one to see teams who are going to play in a similar kind of way in terms of controlling possession. I want to see what the response is to a team like Atlanta that can control possession but also create a ton of chances and is very dangerous in the build-up. So NYC, obviously, with Dome Tarrant, he's coming from the same mentality as Pep Guardiola in terms of controlling possession. They controlled more possession last year than anybody else in the league. They're going to be a team that will obviously try to do that. Can they do that against another opponent who wants to control possession? That's going to be the challenge. When you get two possession teams against each other, it's interesting sometimes. Kansas City was second behind New York City. Real Salt Lake was third. You wouldn't necessarily think of them in that way, but they're a team with Corey Baird, who I really like, Albert Rusnak, who I really like, Jefferson Savarino, who is that kind of explosive guy off the wing. If they get more goals, and if Sam Johnson, the Liberian forward that they've signed from Norway, if he produces up top, they're a really dangerous team because I think they have the possession idea with individual talent that can break you down. New York City could be that too, but New York City right now doesn't have the forward, so how does it look? Are they going to go even deeper into controlling possession with a false nine? That'll be interesting because that'll be a different way of doing it than Atlanta does with Joseph Martinez, who's going to drop in more than I think we saw him in previous years, but still is a player who's comfortable playing that way. New York City might go into the season without a true forward. And if it's Mitrita or Jesus Medina or Maxi Morales up there, but dropping in to create those triangles and create that very narrow play like Trains mentioned, if that's how New York City plays, they're going to have to dominate possession because they're not going to have that true out-and-out goal scorer. They're going to have to create chances through possession more. They're going to have to use the possession to unbalance the defense to create a run for a Medina or a Jonathan Lewis or a Maxi Morales or a Mitrita. They're going to have to do that where Atlanta has some different options. They can knock it out wide and put in a cross and let Joseph go up for it. New York City wouldn't really have that. Those are the ones that jump out. Toronto is just a complete question mark right now. They were fifth in the league in possession behind Atlanta last year. It's too early to say what Toronto's going to do and how they're going to play. There may be the biggest story in terms of roster additions left in the league as to what they're going to do. What Toronto's going to do to replace Giovinco and what NYC is going to do to replace David Villa. Those are probably the two biggest questions left in the league.
NYCFC may not have a true goal scorer, but they will have a captain.
And who is it?
Alex Ring.
It's a good call. It's a very good call. Alexander Ring's one of the best central midfielders in the league. Obvious leader with that group. That's a good call. I like Alexander Ring. He's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. Very talented holding midfielder. I want to see who they pair him with this year. Is it going to be Keaton Parks? Is it going to be Juan Pablo Torres? Probably going to be a younger guy with him. Herrera was a younger guy, but Herrera was further along than Parks or Torres. Herrera, is a guy who's moved on to La Liga now. I want to see how effective Ring is with a different person next to him. Herrera made Ring really good. I think Ring's a good player. Can Ring help elevate the game of a Torres or of a Keaton Parks? That's going to be the question for NYC beyond who scores goals, because I don't know who that's going to be. Could be committee, and that's fine. You can do that. Some of Barcelona's greatest games were with Lionel Messi as the number 9, and he's not a traditional number 9. He doesn't play it like a traditional number 9. I don't know if it's something you can do week in and week out, and that's the question for NYC. Can you do that against everybody? Can you be effective in that way against everybody? It's a big ask. We'll see what happens. They're still reportedly linked to Carlitos, the Spanish forward, be around anywhere between $2 and $4 million in a likely transfer fee. So keep an eye on that. He could come in and be that focal point up top. NYC is going to have an interesting year ahead. I think Dome Tarrant might have one of the hottest seats underneath him. Mm-hmm. Even though I really like what I think he wants to do, because it's not all that dissimilar from what Frank de Boer wants to do in Atlanta. He's coming at it from a slightly different approach, but controlling possession and playing attractive, possession-oriented soccer is fun. It's good. It's a good way of approaching the game. I prefer it. It's not the only way. Before things fell off the map for Jose Mourinho, he was the absolute opposite, and he would tell you as much. There was a 7 points, I don't know if it was in an interview or something that he wrote that was basically the exact opposite of what Pep Guardiola or a Johan Cruyff or anybody from that school wants to do in controlling a game via possession. he wrote his manifesto about how he would manage teams, and it was pretty much point by point the opposite. It was you limit chances, or you limit risk by not controlling the ball, because if you control the ball and you turn it over, it's risky. You're exposed. If you don't have the ball, you're not inviting that risk. And he had success with that at times. Absolutely. It's a different approach. It can work. You see teams play a very pragmatic style many, many times. Leicester City wasn't a dominant possession team when they won the Premier League. They were deadly on the counter.
Yep.
Teams
especially coming out of net.
There is no one way to play. Nobody has a lock on the system that works. I prefer teams that want to play an exciting attacking way. It's more fun to me. I think it's more fun for the fans to watch. It gives you joy even if your team doesn't always get the results, because you're going to be entertained. I'd rather see that than a team that plays very defensively and isn't dominant in doing it, because if you're not, then you're going to have a lot of bad results and you're going to play bad soccer, and it's just a bad time all the way around. It's going to be fun, because I think what Frank de Boer is wanting to do, and I think he has the pieces to do it, is going to be very different than what we've generally seen in MLS. And I hope that discussion continues to take hold nationally. Could be a lot of fun. Because remember, de Boer played at Barca when, right after Cruyff had influenced it. He played for Louis van Gaal. Van Gaal, was a manager who came out of that era who were influenced by Cruyff. He took things in a little bit different direction, but it's still influence there. De Boer played at Barcelona with Pep Guardiola. They had these conversations because Pep, I think, was thinking about being a manager from the time he was 20 years old. You had a lot of players from those Barcelona teams where De Boer was at go on to be managers. There's a lot of common threads. But I think De Boer in MLS, with the talent he has, he's going to be able to do something in this league that we've never seen on a regular basis. And I'm looking forward to it. The glimpses we saw yesterday were really exciting to see. So it's going to be a fun year. There will be more overreactions for sure, both positive and negative. It's going to happen this year. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of reactions, though, and that's the best thing you want. You don't want to have zero reaction to what you're doing. You're going to get reactions with the way Atlanta United's going to play. You're going to get reactions to these games on a regular basis. It's going to be a good time. Let's take a break, come back, more reactions, more news after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Finishing up an Overreaction Thursday here on SDH, February 7th. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning. Allison Cupertino from earlier this morning said, how about other teams stop trying to take out our guys all the time? Ooh, Allison, it's going to happen more this year when you have both Barco and Pitti trying to claim souls from defenders on a regular basis on the dribble. Said defenders whose soul has been claimed, they're not going to be very happy, and they're probably going to lash out and kick people because that's just how it goes. Teams are going to come in and say, we're not going to let him do that. We're not going to let him nutmeg us 5 times. We're not going to allow that to happen. Let's kick him. It's going to happen. I hope that we see maybe a little bit more, and this is something I hope for with every team, not just Atlanta United, but I hope that referees are cognizant of this and protect the skillful players and protect that flair. I hate when games get bogged down with whacking people on a regular basis. I hope that we can get past that, yeah.
Although I don't necessarily anticipate that happening. I think that at least early on in the year, I think that there's going to be a lot of kicking and scraping and fouling, and it could be ugly at times. That's just my gut.
So Joe Bost asked a question earlier. He said, so are you saying Tito is a summer transfer? No, not saying that at all. Saying that it's just competition for spots. And in the 3-4-3, there's not another spot he could play outside of where he played yesterday, which is on the right wing. He could play over on the left. They're going to move around anyway. He could play up top. There's going to be plenty of time for Tito to play. He's again, you're competing for those spots in a 4-3-3. I think it's a little bit different conversation. You can get a team with Barco, Pitti, Tito, and Joseph on the field in a 4-3-3. In a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, it's almost impossible to get all of them on the field together. You're going to be very risky in the middle of the field if you do. 4-3-3, you could see a situation where it is your back four. The 6 is either Remedi or Lorenowitz. The 8 is either Nagbe or Remedi or Lorenowitz. The 10 playing next to them in more of that inverted triangle could be a Barco or a Pitti Martinez, with the other one on one wing, Tito on the other wing, Joseph up top. Depending on how you approach each match, you're going to see time for Tito to get lots of minutes or be a sub off the bench. I'm not saying he's going to get transferred at all. I wouldn't say that. I think it's the same as with most players in this team. There are price tags, and probably very high ones, on lots of players in this team. And if somebody comes with the right situation and they're offering the right thing to the player and the club is happy with a club hitting that price tag or exceeding it, you're going to see moves made because you have players coming through. That's another reason why you brought in Frank de Boer, John, because what does Ajax do? They develop players. They play them in the first team. They sell them on at the right time because they trust in their way of developing the next guy.
And that's the bottom line here. That has been the approach, where it is develop, or whether it's internally or bringing in players that you think you can develop into your system, move them on to that next step, take the money that is from a transfer, reinvest it into bringing in other players who are experienced or into your academy and into the general coffer, and it's a cycle. And so when you have someone like a Frank de Boer who's done it at Ajax, when you have Darren Eales who's been part and parcel to it at Spurs and has that European model, bottom line is develop, send on, reinvest. Develop, send on, reinvest. And it's doing it before it's too late to maximize any kind of a return, because if someone has a number in mind and it's an irresistible number, you'd be silly to ignore it. And so that's just how it is here. And Atlanta United is proving that this model can function and can work very successfully in MLS. And so having someone like de Boer, who's done it at Ajax, familiar with the system, familiar with integration, familiar with all this stuff, this is how it is right now for MLS 3.0, and Atlanta United's at the forefront of it.
I think right now with this team, you have a situation where there's a player ready to step in and play significant minutes at every position on the field. I think you're there. And that's a great place to be, because if the right deal comes, or if an injury happens or whatever, you have a replacement in-house ready to go. And then you trust your scouting, you trust your academy development. Okay, then who's next in the pipeline? Who's coming up next? That's what Atlanta United wanted to do from day one, bringing in Frank DeBoer, a guy who understands that and absolutely buys into that model because he developed through it as a player and as a manager. Kind of a no-brainer. Trevin with an interesting one. It sounds like it could be a lyric from a My Chemical Romance song. Every reaction is an overreaction. We played a team that just beginning training and a depleted U20 team. Every reaction is an overreaction. I disagree, Trevin.
No.
I disagree. No, it's not in a big way.
There's pragmatism too.
No. Every reaction is an overreaction. No, because I think a lot of reactions, and definitely what I'm trying to express today is not so much the result and the competition, but how Atlanta played and stylistically what they wanted to do and how they looked like they had an understanding of what they wanted to do. Those are the things that impressed me the most. Joseph finishing off a chip with the goalkeeper who'd come out and is wide open. It's a beautiful moment from Joseph. It's something, you can overreact about. It was a crazy play from the goalkeeper, and then Cholos was just bonkers to not close Joseph down quicker, but whatever, it happens. You have to take those advantages in any game that happens, whether it's a preseason or a regular season, but I was most impressed with the way they played, the mentality with which they played, the style that they showed, and their understanding of all the concepts associated with it. And those, I don't think, are overreactions, because you'd want to see those against a U17 team, or you'd want to see them against a senior team in a game that matters. Those are the things you can look for across the board. And I thought Atlanta did well in those moments. Let's take our final break, come back. Any final reactions, get them in now at Soccer Down Here. We will be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, Soccer Down Here, February 7th. Jason Longshore, John Nelson, wrapping things up on an Overreaction Thursday. Make sure you're heading over to the Horizon Theater. Go check out The Wolves. It is a Pulitzer Prize finalist. It is a New York Times critics pick. It's about 9 young women taking the field to answer life's big questions. Tickets are available, horizontheater.com. Tomorrow, we're going to have, as part of our Friday flashback, we're going to have 2 tickets that we will be giving away to the best Friday flashback response. So
there you go.
That question will go out tomorrow morning, usually around 8 o'clock. So be ready to pounce, and we'll give away a couple tickets to see the Wolves over at Horizon Theater. Final overreactions this morning. John, anything that we have not hit that came to your mind from yesterday?
Well, I mean, for me, it was seeing the younger guys integrating more than anything else, and I wanted to see both younger in the sense of age and then younger in the sense of the system. But we talked about Pereira, we talked about Edwards, we talked about Bashti, and talked about Seydu and Romario. I think that we'd mentioned a lot of folks who need to have good camps and continue to improve. I think Romario has to be on that list too.
Good point.
Yeah. And we've seen what he can be with ATL UTD2. We've seen flashes with Atlanta United, but I think that, we've mentioned what kind of a year this should be for Andrew Carlton. I think that along those same lines, I think that you're looking for those next steps. You're looking for that next advancement when it comes to on the field out of Romario. I think that he's been given opportunities. I think that he'll have opportunities, whether it's in Open Cup or other play or with ATL UTD2. I think that this is his season to step up as well.
A couple rumors from around the league before we go. The New York Red Bulls are linked to an 18-year-old Danish starlet striker. He gets the starlet tag. Matthias Jorgensen, currently at Odense. I'm not sure of my Danish pronunciation. 2 goals on 13 league appearances this season. He's come up from the U19 squad. It looks like it'd be around a couple $1 million. One for the future, guy who can develop under Bradley Wright Phillips. Not a bad situation at all. Philadelphia, the club, through Ernst Tanner, sporting director, confirmed that they have had talks with Mexican central midfielder Marco Fabian. 29 years old. He's at Eintracht Frankfurt. He's only played once this season. He's completely on the outs at Frankfurt. He'll be leaving. But valued at €3 million on Transfermarkt. Developed at Chivas. Played a year at Cruz Azul as well. Be a big addition for Philadelphia. Just don't know what the particulars are in getting that done. Minnesota looks to be bringing in a goalkeeper, Vito Manone. He is an Italian, 30 years old, currently at Reading. Was the starter last year, played 41 matches. He's only played 6 times this year. It'd be a loan with a low TAM range salary. A guy who's always been a backup. He hasn't been a regular guy outside of last year at Reading. He would come in and be the starter, I would assume, with the Loons.
Yeah, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think Manoni spent some time at Sunderland before he had time at Reading.
Arsenal as well.
And so, he kind of sat and did some, out on the edges cup competitions for Arsenal, but I remember him most of his time at Sunderland. And so now I think that it's Manoni and Shuttleworth and a third when it comes to the Loons and how they're going to do things.
Some off-field news. Dee Haslam, new owner of the Columbus Crew, spoke at a Women in Sport event in Columbus yesterday. The statement that made the rounds was, "We are very confident that we will have the most successful organization in MLS." That's awesome. That is awesome to hear somebody say that and not be afraid of it and really try to blow this up and do it in a big way. Love that. Absolutely love that from Dee Haslam in Columbus. The other bit of news from what she said is that they are planning to have their new stadium downtown ready to go by summer of 21. That's when they want to have their first league match there. So they've got work to do and work to do quickly. They're trying to finalize all the logistics of the stadium development and get things going. They want to build the best stadium for Columbus, and if it takes a little bit longer than that, they'll do what they need to do. But the plan is to be ready to go summer of 21 and play at Mopfre up until then. Orlando City announced a new TV deal, multi-year partnership with WFOL Fox 35 that will make their smaller station, WRBW My 65, the team's flagship station for locally televised games starting this season. YouTube TV will be the streaming partner for the local matches, not the ESPN Plus. That's a league-wide package. But if you're in the Orlando market, you can watch on My 65. You can also stream it on YouTube TV if you're in Orlando. Good deal for them. Get their TV partner sorted out.
Good stuff.
The LA Galaxy are building a David Beckham statue. I'm okay with that.
Is it tattoo accurate?
They might have to make it easily updatable for tattoos because Bex likes to add them as he goes.
Mm-hmm.
But don't know if it's going to be accurate to tattoos. That's a lot of sculpting. That'd be a lot of extra work. But I'm fine with that. I think some people kind of scoffed at it. It's fine. He off the field stuff absolutely changed the trajectory of Major League Soccer. No question about that. On the field, very good. He won 2 trophies. He carried them to 2 MLS Cups, and they were in the final of the third one where they lost to Real Salt Lake. He had injuries when he got here. He fought back, fought through it, went through some tough times while he was there, but ended up really ending with a very successful run in LA. So if they want to build a statue for him, completely cool with that. I hope they build a Mauricio Cienfuegos statue alongside here at some point as well. It'd be shorter. Wouldn't be as much work.
Do Donovan and Keane have them?
Well, not yet.
Okay, so they chose Beckham for their first one. All right.
Are you surprised?
Over Donovan and over Landon Donovan?
Are you surprised?
And Zlatan?
Zlatan might build himself a statue, but are you surprised they're building a David Beckham statue first?
Slightly over Landon Donovan.
John, this is David Beckham we're talking about. I know on the field, I know all that, but what are people going to be more excited about? A Landon Donovan statue or a David Beckham statue?
All right, I'll take your point.
Celebrity is a big part of it, and Bex has definitely got that. You're going to have more visitors coming.
Is Victoria going to be a secondary part of that statue?
No, the Spice Girls statues will be not at the former StubHub Center. They will be in London somewhere, maybe outside of the place where they shot the Wannabe video.
Or outside of Emirates?
No. Why would it be there?
Just to spite the Manchester United people.
Okay, it's gone off the rails now. I have no idea where that came from. But anyway, we're going to go. Overreaction Thursdays in the books. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Much appreciated. Be back tomorrow. Friday Flashback Question hitting around 8 o'clock on Twitter. Show goes live at 9. You'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to the Wolves over at Horizon Theater for the best responses to the Friday Flashback. Thanks, everybody, for contributing, for listening. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha Spice Girls, y'all.